Not reading particularly well this morning. Doing really well the last couple of weeks. Yeah. So yesterday I started talking about Addison's disease. Talked about how it affects people, what it does, symptoms and stuff. I'm going to kind of finish it all off today. So, after all the symptoms and that I explained, yes, there are a lot of them. Generally, if you get any of the symptoms anyway, if you really are concerned, you've got to see a doctor. But all those symptoms, if you start getting them, go see a doctor. It is difficult to diagnose Addison's. A lot of the symptoms reflect other conditions. So generally, as a rule, Addison's is generally accidentally diagnosed. And it's generally accidentally diagnosed because of a routine blood test. It's usually how it's found. It's seen through what's classed as a basic metabolic panel, where they check your salt and your potassium levels. If there is a sign of Addison's, what they look for, right? What they see if they're looking for Addison's is a low salt and a high potassium level, and that is what indicates somebody. It's indication of Addison's in somebody. What they'll do then is check everything else, but before you go to a doctor, make sure you've got some of the most common symptoms. It makes it much easier to diagnose rather than just accidentally found, because the symptoms are so easily confused with other conditions. Some of the most common symptoms will help them diagnose it a little easier. So if you've got things like darkened skin, severe fatigue, dehydration, or a salt craving, it will make it much easier to diagnose, as well as things like nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, accidental weight loss. I mean, they're talking about weight loss that you're not planning, you haven't tried to lose weight. So it's weight loss that, if you haven't spent the last couple of years desperate to lose weight, and all of a sudden you're dropping it, it's just dropping off you. That's what they class as like an accidental weight loss. And then you're going to get things like lightheadedness or even fainting spells, and then things like muscle or joint pain. And although they're quite common symptoms in Addison's, some of those symptoms as well you'll find in other conditions. But the darkened skin and the salt craving and the dehydration, they're not particularly found in a lot of other conditions. So they are found primarily in Addison's, especially things like salt cravings. I've not seen that before, so it will help them diagnose it. So with those kind of symptoms, you're looking at more blood tests, of course, because then with those symptoms they know what they're looking for. So they'll order blood tests for not just your salt and potassium levels, but for your cortisol and what's classed as an ACTH. I did try looking it up. Well, I was going to look it up and then I forgot. Completely forgot. But that's what it tells me anyway. An ACTH stimulation test is ordered for you, and this measures your adrenal gland response. Okay, so they give you a shot of artificial ACTH. And what they're checking for, they're checking to see if your gland produces a low cortisol level. If it shows because if it doesn't, it will show that it might not be working properly. They need to check to see how much cortisol is being produced. So they'll give you a shot of it. Like I said, I was going to look it up, so if anyone knows what it is, stick it in the comments, pin it, whatever. Yeah. And they'll just check in to see if your glands are going to produce enough the cortisol that they need to counteract it. Okay. If the cortisol levels are low, it will show that it's actually the gland isn't working properly. That's what they're looking for. They'll also order something called an insulin-induced hypoglycemic test, and that is just to check your sugar levels, to find out if it's your pituitary gland or your adrenal gland that's the issue. Now, the pituitary gland is what deals with your sugar levels. That is its job. Its job is to deal with monitoring your sugar levels. Stick a shot of insulin into it. It should balance it out. It should deal with it. It should actually level it all out. Type 1 diabetics use insulin all the time. It's its job. If the pituitary gland doesn't work, then you end up as a type 1 diabetic, like my sister. It's what the pituitary gland does that. That's its job, is to, deal with sugar levels, monitor them, level them out, and hand out insulin. It's its job. It's part of its job to level out your sugar levels. But the aim of the game is to drop the sugar levels, because that's what it will do. Pituitary gland will drop its sugar levels because it's got a shot of insulin in it. So it will drop the sugar level and raise your cortisol levels if the pituitary gland is doing its job. And then, of course, they'll order things like a CT scan to see if there's any actual damage to the pituitary glands. Not to the pituitary, to your glands at all. Once all that's done, if you actually get a diagnosis of Addison's, you are treated with synthetic hormones. That is it. It's a lifetime of medication. That is what you're on. Lifetime medication on synthetic hormones, because that is what you need. It is a chronic condition. You are on medication for life, a bit like type 1 diabetics. It's medication for life. You will be on hydrocortisone to replace the cortisol, and to replace the aldosterone, I can't pronounce it, you'll be on fluorocortisone. But that is what they do. It is a lifetime medication, and you will have regular checkups. You'll be monitored very carefully, but as a whole, apart from that, you will have to keep an eye out for any worsening symptoms. Obviously, if you have an adrenal crisis, that will have to be dealt with immediately. And apart from that, you will lead a very long life, hopefully. I know that with the adrenal crises, there is a chance of fatality if it's not dealt with quickly enough. But other than that, it is a case of, once diagnosed, you learn to monitor your condition. The hospitals will monitor your condition. You wear a Medi bracelet, you have an alert on you, You will always have a contact with the hospitals, medical professionals and everything else. You must wear medical alerts, have it plastered everywhere that you have Addison's. And I did see that some people with Addison's, like people with like severe allergies, carry hydrocortisone shots with them in case of emergencies. That was interesting. I don't know if everyone could do that or if it's... But I did read that. That was interesting. Yeah, it is important. That is your main point of life. That's your life source if you go into an adrenal crisis. Those hydrocortisone shots are exceptionally important. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, to lead a nice long life, hopefully. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna. I'll see you all later.